co-founders of the AI-ARGO, which is a project that me and a very close friend of mine spearheaded to try and bring AI and the ancient world together to try to find some definitive answers of who we are, where we came from, and maybe even solve some of those mysteries that have been plaguing humanity for centuries.
Hey guys, welcome to the channel, or welcome back. I have a very special guest today. Everyone's talking about AI and all the wonderful things it does, or can do, or will be able to do. And I'm just going to bring him right on in. It's Rami. Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good to be here, man. Nice to see you. Thank you for letting me come on.
Oh, absolutely. I did watch a recent podcast you were on that was really interesting, and you've been in a lot of Twitter spaces talking about this new project that you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you want to a little history on you and how you got to this point and how you got involved with this, and then what the project actually is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give it like a brief history of myself because that's like a long ass story. But yeah, so we started this project called the AI-ARGO about a month and a half ago now. It's me and one of my friends out. We met through Twitter, a guy called Tim. And we were in several spaces, the AI spaces and stuff like that. We kind of thought, well, hey, wouldn't it be cool to kind of use AI to, kind of try to decode some of these like mysteries of the past kind of thing, like who built the pyramids or Göbekli Tepe or the Bora Bora caves and stuff like that. And it kind of just blossomed from there. And we basically now we're at the point where we have, two teams. One of them's doing the research and the other ones are building the bots. And we're just going to start looking at some of these things and see if we can't like solve some of them. AI is everywhere at the moment, and it's like this massive tool that people are using for everything. Like it just, I don't know if you heard, recently just was able to 3D map all 200 million known proteins, something that would have taken humans a billion years to complete, and it did it, within a matter of months, I think, something like that. So it's a massive tool.
Wow.
Excuse the motorcycles outside my house.
All good. And speaking of background noises and AI, I've been setting up my new computer. I told you briefly about this. And there's software that using AI technology, it cancels out the background. So for those that are here for the pugs.
By the way, sorry. I didn't know what the bottom thing was, and I was testing it, and I just put big booty, and it's come.
Where is this?
Under Rami 4K, I need to turn that off. Actually.
Oh, big booty! Oh no!
I was like, I didn't know what that thing was. Hang on, let me change it.
Oh my goodness!
Maybe start again without the big booty. Hang on. Let me just. Oh shit! There you go.
We should just leave it. No, this is a chill stream. We're not going to get too formal. We can be silly. We can do all the things, and I'm not monetized, so
cool, awesome.
Be yourself.
So my name is Big Booty. Thank you for letting me have me on your channel. No, I'm joking.
Oh gosh, is Rami 4K your Twitter handle, right?
Rami 4K is my Twitter handle, and then it's I'm putting it underneath as well. The AI-ARGO is the there you go. The AI-ARGO is our project channel as well. So if people wanted to check that out.
Yeah, and with that project, you have a website up and everything now, right?
Yeah, it's AI-ARGO.ai. It's bare bones at the moment because, as I say, we only started this like 3-4 weeks ago, something like that. So as we're building it out, kind of thing. Yeah, it's not much on there, but yeah.
I did appreciate in the about section though, the 3 core values. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, right? And that's our go-to. Anytime somebody goes, well, what if you find this out? What if it turns out that, we were wrong about whatever? So, well, we don't know. Like we're kind of going into this really, we're just going into this to kind of find those things out. We're just exploring, right? And the first second sentence is, don't expect perfection because we're using the scientific method. So we're going to be putting all this data through these machines, and we're not just going to be like, here, this is the truth kind of thing. We're putting it through and then creating a hypothesis, putting it out into the world and saying to people, well, look, you pick holes in this now, and then we'll put it back through, and we'll keep doing that until you can't pick holes in it anymore. And then that will be close enough to, let's say the actual truth of what happened, kind of thing, right? And then the third one, which is the most important, is you might find out some shit that you didn't want to know. Right? Do you know what I mean? Might change your worldviews completely.
I mean, like, along those lines, finding out things you didn't want to know. I mean, I heard you talking about this in a different way, but like you get stories passed down in your family line, and then you come to find out that didn't happen, or that didn't happen that way, or that person. I mean, small story on my side. My great grandfather, who immigrated from Scotland, everyone said how tall he was. He was this mountain of a man, right? Well, the ship manifests are searchable, right? For when he came over in 1908, he was 5'6". It's like, you guys are telling stories, but yeah, the stories that get passed down, it's like you find stuff out that, well, nobody cared that he was short, but it was just funny. But
5'6" was, well, I mean, back then it was maybe, I don't know.
It wasn't above average.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
People were smaller then, but they made him out to be a very
giant. Yeah.
So it was just
Hodor or something.
Yes. But like you're saying, like, be prepared to find things out that you didn't want to know. Like when Ancestry DNA came out, finding out people aren't actually your family members, or that kind of thing. But the truth is the point, right?
Yeah. I mean, like the DNA, like 23andMe and Ancestry and stuff like that. I think the amount of people that found out that their father was actually the milkman and not their actual dad. I mean, even me, when I did mine, it turned out that, like, okay, so I'm half Egyptian, half Greek. With like a smattering of Danish in there as well. Like my dad's half Danish, but me and my mom used to go to Greece every summer, right, and hang out with my Greek side of the family and blah 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 and all this. And then I did my 23andMe, and I thought, we've got this rich Greek ancestry. It turns out that my grandma, her parents were immigrated from Italy, and the rest of the family was all Italian, and I had no idea. So I did that, and it was just like, I'm like 15-20% Italian and less Greek than I am Italian, but like, so you.
And you hadn't known that you were any Italian prior?
At all, right?
Yeah, I had a similar thing. Like my great grandmother, it was a milkman situation.
No way.
She was. But my grandmother came out, and she looked very much very much like an Asian baby. And great grandma's husband said, "Nope, we're adopting her out." So for the longest time, we were trying to figure out what kind of Asian are we, like, because we didn't know. The donor was gone. We don't know anything about him. And it wasn't until the Ancestry DNA for me that I found out it was Korean. Everyone was like, "Oh, you're definitely Japanese. Oh, you look this, you look that. Oh no, it's Chinese." And it's like finding out the truth was just like, okay, I don't have to wonder anymore. It's like, that's what it is. That's cool. Next, laid that to rest after just the stories and people speculating for the longest time.
Man, you should see. Actually, let me see if I can get out. You should see my 23andMe is crazy. It's basically everywhere except for like North America, South America. I've got like Mongolian in me somewhere. Do you know what I mean? I have no idea. Then my mom kind of did like have a.
Are you one of Chengiz's descendants?
100%, I'm pretty sure. But like, let me get it up. So it's basically everywhere except for like North and South America. So it's like North Africa, all of Europe, and then you've got like China and all those kind of places as well. Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, so stuff like that, and then there's stuff not only that, but like, for example, there's a lot of people who academics and stuff like that who spend their whole careers like looking at a certain subject that, now that we're going to look at it from a multidisciplinary angle, because it's one thing to be like, let's say, an Egyptologist, for example, and you're only looking at Egypt within the view and the eyes of an Egyptologist. But then once you start taking in, like, once you have something like AI that can look at every single construction technique, every single type of stone, how hard they are, how hard it would be to cut those, weather events that's happened over the past 10, 15, 20,000 years, and it looks at it from all those angles, that story might change, and people protect their little corners of science now, and we kind of don't want to do that anymore. We just want to have it like blown wide open. I've already been attacked, right? Do you know what I mean? It's fucking hilarious.
Have
Because
you?
they used like the same on our first ever post on the AI-ARGO. When we launched it, I made this video. I was like, I just made this, short, like 1 minute kind of thing going. The video was basically saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool to use AI to like look at our ancient history, right? There's this guy, I'm not going to mention by name, give him any publicity, but there's this guy who attacked, do you know who Graham Hancock is? He did, written a few books. He did Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix, that show.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I just didn't recognize my name, but I have heard of that.
Yeah, so Graham Hancock, he's been on Joe Rogan a few times. He's like an alternate historian kind of thing, looking at, not just taking the mainstream narrative, but looking at other facts. And he came out and said, he believes that civilization started further back than what we think, which is like everybody thinks, well, the mainstream thinks it started 12,000 years ago. But he's saying there was a mass extinction event that happened 12,000 years ago, and actually civilization is much older than that. And these people, they come out and they use like, they use words to shut people down, like, oh, you're a racist, or you're a white supremacist. Yeah, the usual shutdown method, right?
Bigot, misogynist,
whatever, right? Yeah, they just use that to shut other people down. And on our first ever post, this guy who's like this esteemed, learned gentleman from America in academia. We went back and forth a little bit because he just on our first ever post, he just came up and went, oh, this is pseudoscience, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. So I just explained to him in a thread. I said, well, we're using the scientific method. Like, this is what we're doing. We have 2 teams. We're going to put through all the data we can. Anything that comes out, we have people on board that their only job is to like pick holes apart in what comes out of it. We keep doing that until we can't pick holes in it anymore. And then we're going to put it out to the public and ask the public and academia to pick holes in it. And then put what you guys find through again and again until we come to some kind of consensus. Like, this is a community project. It's not just us saying this is the truth, right? I explained that, which to me seems pretty fucking straightforward. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not, there's nothing wrong with what I said. He wrote, he goes, well, this seems like it's going to be rigged to produce Western supremacist narratives from the start, right? And I went, okay, we can do this, right? You know what I mean? I'll bite. So I wrote this post going, well done, to this person. That you've just called a first world academic, have just called a third world immigrant a supremacist because I want to look into my own culture and my own people and not just take your word for it, right? I'm not going to be just handing down the knowledge of my people from you. Yeah, and then he blocked me. So
get wrecked, Whitey.
Yeah, like, I don't give a shit where you're from or what you do. Like that shit doesn't bother me. There was actually another guy who attacked us for the name AI-ARGO, because the Argo, I don't know if you know the story of Jason and the Argonauts.
Yes.
It's like a Greek myth. They went to look for the golden fleece and all this shit, right? So we named it the AI-ARGO from that. And like half of my family is Greek, right? Do you know what I mean? And this is a story that my grandma used to tell me. But he came out as going, oh, these guys don't know what they're talking about. I wrote a book on the Argo and Jason and blah, blah, blah. And I looked this book. It's like, bro, it's a fucking Amazon PDF. And you've got 8 reviews. Like your mother, the dog, and your girlfriend reviewed your fucking thing, right? But I didn't bring it because he didn't bring it up. I didn't bring it up. Like, it wasn't something like, I don't, that's a weapon that you shouldn't, like, do you know what I mean? It's just disgusting when people use that. But the other guy did. So I was like, well, let's go for it then. And I called him out for it, and then he blocked me. He didn't want to talk to me anymore. So whatever.
They're operating people. Like, they throw the first punch. They can't take any criticism back.
Hey man, live by the sword, die by the sword, right? So whatever.
You didn't even go like low blow on them or anything.
You could. I explained the process of what we were doing in the scientific process. I didn't go like, listen, fucking white man, you can't do this and blah blah blah.
I'm brown.
Like, listen, just because I'm sandy colored, okay? Don't come at a sandy person. You're crap. But yeah, it was just a little bit of a low blow, and it's a kind of like a silencing thing that they do, and I don't agree with it at all. So whether or not he did it to me or anybody else, you shouldn't do that. You should argue facts with, with facts.
Right.
But no,
shut up or shut up.
Yeah, right? Exactly. But they try to do that crap, and like, you ain't pulling that with me. Like, literally, the 2 founders of this, I'm a fucking dirty immigrant, and the other founder is first generation Canadian Chinese, right? So it's like literally like it's, you know, come on, you like find something else to come at us for. But
yeah. So what is your vision as far as like timeline? When do you and how are you going to make it accessible to people? Like,
so
what does it look like to you going forward? Like right now, it's the creation of the bots and getting the foundations in place, right? Once the information starts coming out to get filtered and filtered and filtered, what does that look like for the user?
So basically, we are phase one is we're building. It's going to be like a constellation of what they call narrow AI bots. So these bots are going to be focusing on specific subjects each, right? So you have like, imagine like all these small narrow AI bots looking at different subjects that feed into one big boy, right? Do you know what I mean? One big booty bot. Big booty bot, right? And then that in turn will be able to put out information to us internally that we'll be able to check and double check. But we need to obviously make sure that the bots are working and everything's fine. And that kind of takes time. I mean, somebody was in one of our spaces who knows about this stuff. He was like, this is an amazing project. You do realize like building these bots, this whole constellation is going to be probably harder than building a pyramid itself, right? Do you know what I mean? It's a big task. So we're starting with, we're not building the whole constellation in one go. We're starting with a singular bot, and then we're going to build off of that kind of thing. So the first phase, the topics we're looking at are like language, engineering, trade routes, extinction events, key civilizations, ancient technologies, mineralogy, cartography, and construction, right? So the first bot we're building is a language bot, which should be, by the time we have it built and ready to put information into, it should be maybe like between a month and a half, 2 months, something like that. And then we can start.
Wow, that's in no time.
Yeah. But then it's ready to feed information into it. And then the job is to kind of get all this massive, like all these data sets, and then start feeding everything in. So everything about every language that we have at the moment, everything that's ever been written about ancient languages. But because it's multimodal, it's not just going to be text. We're going to be putting in like, you know, pictures of actual manuscripts as well, carvings on walls, everything that we have, basically everything that humanity's ever kind of looked at. But the beauty about these bots is it's not just a one-way street. So they'll be able to say, well, okay, I've looked at trade. Let's say I've looked at how language has progressed from here, this language, this and this. I need you to go to this area in this country and look for a specific type of thing that nobody's kind of looked for before, because my data set isn't complete. So it'll give us tasks to go out and do as well. So by the time we kind of actually have something to put out as a first, you know, let's say a first offering for people, it could be a few months. It could be a few weeks after. Like, we don't know. We don't know how, you know, rule number one, we don't know, right? So we don't know how long it's gonna take for them to produce this kind of stuff. So,
you know, I was just thinking something about how you've gotten a little bit of hate so far, right? History is dangerous, right? Knowledge is dangerous. So I can imagine you're going to get a little more than just a couple angry people on Twitter. Like, I mean, have you thought about the implications, like broader implications and security and all the things? And,
well, funny you should mention that.
Security measures and protecting your baby. Like,
yeah. So I mean, the people we have that are on board for the bot team, the first people we looked at was cybersecurity people, and these are like top level people that are going to be able to protect anything that we kind of do, isolate it from, you know, being vulnerable from attacks and stuff like that. And on the other side of it, the head of our research team, who has his own team, Phil, you know, his kind of guys. Phil is a ex Royal Marine Commando, and he now runs a close protection unit of his own guys that, like, you know, they go and do protection for, like, you know, rich people basically that think that people are gonna come kill them. So we've already chatted about that. He's like, yeah, it's all ready. If it comes to that, then, you know, all of us will have that that covered kind of thing and everything. So thankfully, yeah, we've thought about that, because we're not only
don't give away your secrets or anything, but just like it just occurred to me. It's like, oh wow, this could be way bigger, like, as a threat to institutions, governments, like just having this information readily available to anyone.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one thing for I'm not that threatened by fucking pale dudes who have never hit the gym that have worked in academia all their lives. But once we start getting into like other phases, then yeah, we're going to start ruffling feathers and stuff like that. So we need to kind of think about that, which is to me is like weird, like, right? If you're into science and you're into like all this stuff, surely you should be into truth, right? Like if let's say, for example, this guy who has his own theories that are all written and stuff like that, and he really backs them 100%. Like, why wouldn't you want to prove them by going, well, here's my information, like make my argument more robust? If you're that confident about your theories, then surely you'd welcome this rather than attack it. Do you know what I mean? But
for sure. Well, that kind of gives it away that they're not the good actors in the they're not good actors.
Yeah, and it's funny because when we started this, we went to academia. We went to the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquity, who are the people who kind of like hold like the mainstream of Egyptology. We went to American universities and all this stuff, and we told them what we were doing, and we said, well, if you want to get involved, we would love to have you, and all your data, but be prepared to be wrong, right? And that's the only thing we ask, is that you're prepared to be wrong and that you're looking for like objectively for the truth. And none of them came back to us. The only people who were willing to do that were people in the alternative history world. And they're like, yeah, I'm prepared to be wrong. I just want truth, right? Here's my data. All the data from mainstream is available anyway. So we don't really need them to be on board. We can just take their work.
It's still that they're not open to it.
Yeah. But the beauty about these bots is as well that we have to build in, especially with the language bots and stuff, is that we have to build in not only does it have to be unbiased, but it has to be able to detect people's bias in their speech and in their work, So for example, let's say if the bot was looking at, like, let's say, all the different writing from scribes that happened in, I don't know, France in the 1400s, whatever, right? The bot would need to be able to know the other scribes around the area, what their work was, who they worked for, if it was leaning towards bias towards a king or towards like whoever, other writings from around the area on the same subjects from places that didn't have a king, for example, and correlate all those together to be able to give you a score of, okay, well, this person's writing is 50 out of 100 bias, it's 70 out of 100 inaccurate or accurate, blah 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 blah. So it would be able to tell whether or not to a high degree of accuracy whether or not the person writing it is writing it in like truthful intentions, or he's writing it for a reason, right? Like, so to push a narrative kind of thing. And I think that's what scares the modern day people like this guy who attacked me, because we're putting his work through it too. It's not like he's getting away with it. We're going to put it through and all the other work that he's done, and it'll be able to go, well, yeah, this guy is either 100% accurate, or he's this is completely biased and he's leaning towards this, and it'll give you the proof as well. It won't just say it will go, this is why I think that.
So it'd be interesting to just not on ancient history but modern history to run a program like that and collect the biases and all the context from all the contributors, 30,000 foot view of everything to get a true objective. So not like oh my gosh, could you imagine just even the last like 8 years alone, like what that would look like? And
I'm not touching anything. I'm not touching anything post like 1995 when it comes to America.
History, you're safer, but not totally safe. But seriously though, like running something like that in just like the last 10 years.
Yeah, because we know it's gonna be a bit dangerous, but then in a way,
it would like either confirm other conspiracy theories. There's a lot of what I would imagine like the full-on domino effect of what could do, because like ancient history, everyone's already dead. It doesn't matter. No one cares except for the people trying to preserve their own viewpoint of what that looked like for reasons or whatever. But if you copy pasted that same format on modern times with people that still have like skin in the game and like reputations, and that would be intense.
Well, we have to kind of, because there are people that are here today that are writing about ancient history, right?
Right.
So their work has to be checked, and we have to also check for biases in their work. And I mean, as we say, like, if this thing isn't going to be perfect from day one, and it's not just going to spit out like this is the truth, it's a process, right? So it's not something that we're not trying to become the new gatekeepers of knowledge, right? We don't want to become like these academics or these people where like this is ours, don't question us. We don't, like, that's not how you kind of get to these answers, kind of thing. And yeah, it's it's going to be dangerous, but there you go. I've never played it safe.
So if you had one wish or three wishes, idea throughout the years, one thing that I've always wanted is I just want a true telling of everything from the beginning of everything. I'm ready to be wrong at any point, but I just want truth. I want to know, like, and this seems like something that feeds into that portion of that internal wanting of just lay it out there. What happened? Like, who are these people?
And a lot of people
here.
I think a lot of people feel like you as well. Like, we have a lot of people that come to our spaces on Twitter and stuff like that to say the same thing. This is like, well, this narrative doesn't make sense, right? Like, what they're telling us doesn't make sense. And then every time somebody questions it, they're shut down by being called a racist or a bigot or whatever, right? And then no one wants to ask, and everyone's scared to. Well, I ain't scared to, and I'm, you can't fucking come at me with that. So, like, I'll do it. You know what I mean? So it's there's a lot of people that want to know, including me. Like, I grew up in Egypt, right? Like, the pyramids are right there. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me how, so for example, the size of the stones in the pyramids. I don't know how much you know about the pyramids or anything like that, right?
I only learned about them in school, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, even me growing up there, when I go back, and I've only been back a couple of times since I came here, but when I go back, there's fucking massive. Like, there's nothing like it. It's like so huge in the desert. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And these stones are they're between 8 and 80 tons. The ones on the outside, right? The ones on the inside are up to, I think it's like in the thousands of tons. And it's not like a linear scale. It's like, okay, it takes 100 slaves to move a 10-ton brick. So
right.
100 ton brick would take 1,000 slaves or whatever. It's not like this. Once it gets to a certain like weight, it goes up exponentially. And when you're talking like 1,500, 2,000 tons and up, these stones were cut from quarries over 500 miles away, out of solid granite, right? And they're cut so perfectly that when they're placed inside the main chambers, you can't get a razor blade in between them. That's how precise these things are cut. Not only that, but the pyramids themselves point true north, south, east, west, and they're off by like 0.25 of a degree. Like, these massive monuments, they're like literally, they're so perfectly placed, and they're placed on top of these. What no one ever talks about is these base stones that they had to put them on so it didn't fucking sink into the sand and it stayed level. And these base stones are 8,000 tons, something like that, and they're perfectly flat, perfectly fucking cut. And you can't like slaves, rope and wood wouldn't be able to cut those and drag them through the desert for 500 miles and then put them all the way up on top and then into these chambers. Like, you would need someone worked out that you need a ramp at a 2-degree angle going up. So you're talking like the ramp would have to start from 800 miles away. So you'd have to go backwards to take it up the ramp to get into the pyramid itself. It just makes zero sense, right? But yeah, that's what they say. And then the timeline doesn't make any sense either, and the fact that there's no hieroglyphics inside the pyramids themselves. Yeah, exactly. We're trying to stay away from that, but yeah, you never know.
It's funny.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens, right? But yeah, so all that kind of stuff doesn't make any sense. And then what really doesn't make any sense is the fact that the pyramids were built so perfectly. And right outside, you have the Sphinx, and the head and the body are so misaligned. Like, the head is much smaller than the body. And the body's like weathered to fuck, and the head is like pristine, right? So what the theory is, not the mainstream theory. The mainstream theory is like, yeah, they were all built at the same time. The pyramids were built within 60 years, right? But you have to think, if there's like the amount of stones that are in the pyramids, if you were to place like 10 of these massive stones a day, it would still take you 660 something years to build one pyramid. And they're saying they did it within the lifetime of the one pharaoh, right?
Right.
And then they said the Sphinx at the same time was made, but the Sphinx doesn't make sense because the body is weathered. It's completely like, it looks like there's rain erosion and water erosion on the inside, on the Sphinx itself, and then on the walls surrounding it, where the head is like pristine. What they think, the alternative view is that the Egyptians found these things there and then carved the head of the pharaoh out of the head of what some people believe might have been a lion, right? Because at the time, like we're in the age of what is it now? Pisces, right? Like Jesus and the fish and all that kind of stuff. I think the age of Pisces. But before that, I think it was the age of Leo, the lion, right? And so they think that that was built then. And if that was built then that means that the pyramids and the Sphinx, they're over 10, 12,000 years old. Now, this is all conjecture. Like what they say is that they were like 5,000 years, right? That's the mainstream kind of narrative.
Sure.
I don't know. This is what we want to find out anyway. Do you know what I mean?
So many questions.
I know. And every time you ask another question, more come up. Like you figure one thing out, like it just spreads, right?
Yeah. Yikes. It's a really cool thing. And you and your friend were just talking about it, and just one day, let's go, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. And we were in the space.
How did you find your other people, like the people on your team that have all of this experience? How did you reach them?
Well, Tim, the guy who's the other founder, he he was in MIT as an engineer. He knows a lot. He's the technical guy. Like I've got donkey brain when it comes to a lot of the technical stuff when it comes to AI, right? I'm just the guy who can talk shit for fucking hours, basically. So, but like, yeah, he's the technical guy. He knows a lot of people. We're going through the process of, we have a base of that team. The research team is some of the people that we found through the alternative history world. I mean, obviously, as I said, we approached the mainstream. They didn't want to touch us, but yeah, these are like top researchers, people who have spent years looking into a lot of stuff, and they haven't done it for money. They're not getting paid. They have YouTube channels where they've put up hundreds of videos, and they didn't even try to become monetized. They're just literally seeking truth, right? And that's what we kind of wanted on that side. The bot team is a bit harder to build. It was a bit harder to build because obviously we can't make a mistake with the bots once they're built, right? So it has to be like as perfect as we can get it from day one, right? Data is data, that's fine. Like we can get that and we can adjust as we kind of go along. But the bots have to be pristine. So yeah, that was the hard bit, kind of finding that team. But yeah, it was all through. People used to use LinkedIn and stuff like that to network. Now I really believe LinkedIn and all those things are dead. Excuse me. It's Twitter and Twitter Spaces and stuff. The amount of people that we've met through there, people who have worked for OpenAI or ChatGPT or programmed for Bing or stuff like that, they're all there, right? All of them are there, and they're all in these spaces, and they're chatting to people, and these are all projects that like they want to get involved in as a passion project, right? Do you know what I mean? Because this is for me and Tim. We're not looking for funding. We're not going out. I said this in the podcast as well. Like we're not brought to you by Pfizer, right, or anything like that. We're literally just.
Oh no!
You know what I mean? We're doing this off our own backs, and we're
you're not going to be trotting out in needle costumes.
No, exactly. Tonight on AI-ARGO, everything the mainstream told you was true. All right, good night. Like, do you know what I mean? And that's it.
but people can support you though. There's a donate.
Yeah. You can buy us a coffee or throw a couple bucks. That's fine, right? But like when it comes to going out and actually like looking for investors and stuff, we're not doing that. Like we don't want to do that. I mean, yeah, if you want to buy, just throw a couple bucks and buy the team a coffee, that's fine. But
contribute toward the whiskey fund.
Oh yeah, I mean, whiskey is not cheap, guys. And I want if we could play some like soft, like sad music, the shit, and I'm like, guys, listen, our developers, they need whiskey for their this poor developer has gone without whiskey for 30 days. Yes.
Oh, play the Sarah McLachlan in the arms of the angel.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This poor dev has gone without cigars for at least 30 days. He has to walk 16 miles to bring his family a bucket of clean whiskey every day. Right. So, yeah, well, but yeah, so, we're not looking for anything like that. We literally, we're funding it ourselves, and yeah, well, it's a big project, but at the same time, this is our passion, and this is going to outlive us as well. Like, we fully expect this to carry on, like, without it. Once we've been assassinated by the academics, this is gonna carry on. This is gonna carry on after that. So yeah, this is just something. It just needs to happen, man. It's something that kind of needs to happen, because I don't want my kids growing up in a world where they don't know anything about their past, or what they do know is complete crap. Like, we feel that there's a lot of there, and we know this as well. There's a lot of technologies that have been lost through the ages, right? A lot, right? So we found stuff, and we have no idea what people used it for. Like, I don't know if you heard about, like, the Baghdad battery. Have you heard about that?
No.
So they found this device that was made, I believe, a few hundred years BC, something like that. Like, not long after, like, year zero or whatever. But there's no other thing that it could be except operating as a battery, right? It's like this jar with stuff in it, and people think that it was maybe used for electromagnetic plating and stuff like that. Yeah, there you go. There's no other thing that it operates as a battery, but we have no idea what they would need a battery for, a couple of thousand years ago. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, stuff like that. Like, science has no kind of explanation for that, or their explanation just is like, oh well, we believe that they made it, and we think it's a battery, but it's not. The problem with science and history is that they look at technology as being linear. It's just like, yeah, we started as hunter-gatherers, we just sat on our asses for 300,000 years, and then within the last let's see, 10, so the last 12,000 years, so 300,000 years we did fuck all. And then within 5,000, it's like, bam, the pyramids, bam, the Colosseum, bam, Rome, bam, like, all this happened. And then that's it. Like, do you know what I mean? It makes no fucking sense. But now there's evidence coming out that there was a mass extinction event about 12,000 something years ago, called the Younger Dryas, which is this mass extinction event that happened that kind of wiped out everything, right? Okay. And if something like that happens, like a meteor hits, for example, and covers half the world in water, all of a sudden you have all the cultures around the world. All of a sudden now they have the story of the flood in their teachings.
Like, right before you said that, I was thinking of that, how so many different cultures, they're not all Judeo-Christian based. They have their own telling of a flood.
All of them,
right?
All of them, yeah. And these stories are passed down from generation to generation through the ages about floods and all this kind of stuff. Now, there is one site that throws a spanner in the works of the mainstream completely, and they don't have an answer for it, because according to mainstream, civilization started 12,000 years ago, right? So we went from hunter-gatherers to agriculture about 12,000 years ago. This is the mainstream narrative. And then in like a couple of thousand years, and all of a sudden we're building these massive monuments and pyramids, and the Barabar caves came later. But like, yeah, so we had these big monolithic things that were built. And then we stopped doing that, and all of a sudden we lost that knowledge somehow, right? So that's the story. There's a site in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, right? Now, Göbekli Tepe, we have dated it, and the only reason we know how old it is because it was built and then it was buried on purpose, right? So they buried it. So the soil in the top and the soil in the bottom was all from the same time period. So we know that it was buried at some point. So we know how old it is, and it falls outside of that time period, right? It comes before the 12,000 year mark. And the carvings on these stones that they uncovered are 3D. They come outside of. No, that's not the one. That's Göbekli Tepe. It's like Gobl Göbekli Le. My fucking.
There it is.
You got it right.
I got you. We're good. Okay.
Right. So for them to have not only the tools but the construction knowledge to be able to carve 3D animals coming out of a stone, it's not like cave drawings or paintings or carved in. The things are carved out; they come out. So there should be pictures of the actual carvings. Yeah, somewhere. If you take that and put it into Google, you'll find it. But there's ones that like with lions or panthers and stuff like that sticking out of the rocks. Right. So you see where like they have the so all those kind of carvings and stuff like that. That is the amount of craftsmanship that it would take to do that. The tools that you would need to do stuff like that, where it comes out of the stone, is massive. Look at the ones. If you look at the one that's all the way on the bottom right, yeah, that one there, right. To do that is there's a level of craftsmanship and a level of skill and knowledge that would take years to do. And this apparently came at a time when mainstream says, "Oh, we were throwing spears at fucking woolly mammoths," right? It makes no sense that site makes no sense. So yeah, and then there's stuff that's around the world that kind of mimics each other. So if you look at the picture that's next to it on the bottom there, you see those little handbag looking things. No, next, yeah, those little handbag things there, these little baskets carved into the stone. Those show up in ancient Egypt on the walls. They show up in India. They show up in South America. They show up everywhere, right? And it's more than a coincidence that these things would be carved into the stone. It's almost like a calling card of something, right? So this is all, we're getting into the woo-woo now, and I don't want to go too woo-woo too quick. Like, people say, the reason why we chose the subjects that we chose for phase 1 is because it's all like meat and potato stuff. It's all stuff we can measure, right? So language we can measure, trade routes we can measure, cartography like maps and stuff like that, construction. Once we start getting into phase 2, phase 3, then we start looking at like where myths came from, where these stories came from, why are these carvings the same as the ones,
why do societies or civilizations on opposite sides of the planet have similar customs or imagery, or it's crazy.
And then if you get into like the mathematics of it, like my math, I don't know shit about math, right? But measurements, right? So for example, there's these H blocks in South America, in Peru, I think they're in Peru or somewhere around there, right? And these things are cut. We don't know what they're for, but they're at perfect angles, right? And these are dated, thousands of years ago. But the measurement from the inside of the H to the ground, or from the top to the ground, is exactly 1 meter, right? The thing with a meter, right? I know you guys over there obviously use, whatever. 15 bald eagles to a freedom unit or whatever it is, but right? But the meter, to figure out the meter, we didn't figure out the meter until we circumnavigated the globe, because you need to know the circumference of the planet to get that measurement. It's found there. It's found within the main chamber of the pyramid. Actually, in the main chamber of the pyramid, if you measure 3 sides, you always get it's like the golden ratio or something like that. You get the pi kind of thing. Yeah, so those H blocks there, they're cut basically so perfectly level as well. The one that freaked me out, the reason that I got into this was in India, there's the Barabar caves, like Barabar caves, and these things are carved into solid granite mountains, right? Now, the smoothness of the walls are they put like a micron laser level to it. The smoothness of the walls are smoother than machine-made glass, right? Now, there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration when you look at these. If you first look at the caves themselves, and then find the 3D scans of these caves, right? And look how, if you put 3D scan of Barabar caves, you'll find the scans of them as well. Now, you have to remember, when you carve granite, right, it kicks up dust. You're breathing in that dust, and the only hole that has to come out is that tiny door there. So these people are working inside there. If you're saying they're chipping away at it, they're breathing that in for however many years that they have to do this, right? That's number one. Number two, if you make...
These look like my countertops. Like, I have granite countertops.
Those are smoother
Yeah.
than your countertops, and they were made a couple of thousand years ago, right?
Oh my
If
god.
you the problem with those caves, they found an unfinished one, but I think the unfinished one was someone attempted to do one later on and then screwed up. But the problem with it is that if you're making something that flat, if you at any point go even just a little bit too far in, then you have to make the rest of the whole thing. You have to take all of it in. You can't fill that in. You can't come back out, right? So when you're carving, it has to be perfect all the way around the whole time. Now just put 3D scan Barabar caves and look at what comes up, because that will give you a more idea of how, like, a better idea. That's the scan of the inside of that cave. The perfection with which that is carved, right? The perfection with which that is carved, and when it was carved, like we're talking. This isn't, yeah. So this is the stuff that no one kind of explained. Like how did this happen? How did they carve something that perfect, that round? And if you look at that room, they took laser measures to these things, right? It's down to the micron level. We can't do that now when we're making glass. Like you can't make glass that flat. So yeah. So that's the kind of stuff we want to look at.
The other question I have is why? Do we know the why, at least, of why this is in, like, why
Nope.
does it give? Oh,
we have no idea.
You gotta give me something.
No, we don't know. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. Fine.
Hey, listen, a couple more whiskeys, and I'll start getting into the woo woo like theories that I kind of have. That where
this is gonna bother me the rest of the day. At least.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, but so this is the kind of stuff that we kind of want to look at, because no one has any answers that make any sense. Do you know what I mean? Like for that to exist, like you can't even make stuff like that now. Like, do you know what I mean? Like to be able to do that, the amount of you need diamond tip machine heads, you would need laser, you would need a whole host of modern technology, and you would still probably not be able to do it to that type of perfection. To get a fucking right angle, right? That's perfectly a right angle into granite. It's hard for us to do now.
Inside of the mountain of granite, you can get all these super fine angles.
And round as well. Those 3D scans are in a mountain. That's not like outside. That's in that mountain. That's what it looks like,
I'm bothered right now.
There's stuff
I
like
didn't
that.
know this existed, so now it's going to be on my list of things that will always bother me until you fix it with your program.
Yeah, exactly. If you really want to freak yourself out, there's a show on Amazon Prime called Builders of the Ancient Mysteries, BAM, and that goes into them. That goes into Pi. It goes into the fact that all these, like Easter Island, Easter Island, the heads, heads. The story of how those people got there is crazy, because they came from French Polynesia, or what we call that now. And for this little tiny speck of an island to find this little tiny speck of an island, they'd either have to send search parties in every direction and hopefully land it, or luckily get there, right? Because they came from there, because we know, because we can compare the two languages kind of thing. But these Easter Island heads were, again, carved from a quarry that then had to be taken up a mountain and then back down and then placed upright where they were. And the hats that they're wearing were a different stone. They were like a volcanic stone. And they were placed afterwards. So they had to hoist them up. And there's all this kind of stuff. But Easter Island and all these different things are on this one line that goes around the earth, right? And that line kind of lines up to, I can't remember what it was, but it's basically the pyramids of Giza, the Barabar caves, all these things kind of line up in this one kind of central line around the world, right? Whether or not that was the safest place to be when a cataclysmic event happened, whether or not there's some kind of reason for it, we don't know, but there's too many coincidences for it to be if there's one or two coincidences, fine. But when you look at the whole thing as a big picture, Like there's no way that there's so many coincidences. Like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. There has to be an answer, and I don't think the answer is like in one discipline. So I don't think it's going to be in like geology or and anything. Like, you're going to have to look at it like what we're doing. Like, look at mineralogy, look at the cartography, look at trade routes and where people were and how language progressed, and all of it together to kind of give you that to give you like more of an overview kind of thing.
Very cool. I'm gonna be bothered for a while after this.
Yeah,
but
we're hoping that people kind of start looking into it more, because this stuff, not only is it not known, people don't like question it, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, this is interesting. Like, there are pyramids here. Oh wow, they're massive. Or, Egypt's a big one as well, because there's stuff that doesn't date to the same times as the stuff that's written on it. So, for example, Ramses II, like, it's quite a famous pharaoh. He was known for just going around and basically just go like, oh, Ramses was here, or like, I did this, right? I just carve his name on everything that he found. Right?
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Ramses was here. But like, so for example, in the Cairo Museum, there's these black sphinx things, and they're carved out of this super hard rock, but they're carved so smooth, and like, you can see the muscle, like all the muscle definition in the tiger and the ribs, and in the sphinx and the ribs and stuff like that. But the actual hieroglyphics that are written on it are like chicken scratches. They're like, because that stone is so hard. They were like, obviously they wrote Ramses' name on it, but it was like graffiti almost. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, if they made this, and they made it so perfect where you could see the ribs of this sphinx, like, how did you screw up the fucking the stamp so bad? Like, do you know what I mean? It didn't make sense. Yeah. It's the same thing with a lot of the stuff. There's stuff in the Cairo Museum that's carved out of like some of the hardest stone known to man, but it's like paper thin. So to get it paper thin, so where if you put a light on the other side of it, it shines through these bowls, right? There's but the problem with Egyptologists is, especially in Egypt, they don't let anybody, with a laser level or any kind of 3D scanning. But there was one vase that this guy from a channel called Uncharted X, he found in someone's private collection. It's an Egyptian vase, and they put it through a 3D scanner, and it was perfect. There's literally no difference, and you couldn't have put this thing on a lathe, because it had handles on it. Handles carved into this stone. I can't remember what the type of stone was, but like, there's a scale of 1 to 10 when it comes to how hard stone is. This shit was like a 9, right? It was high, like basically really hard stone. But yeah, so they put it under a layer and a 3D scanner, and it was to the, like, we're talking about microns here. Like, we're talking about, when you're talking about how perfect these things are, you're talking in like 0.000 something of a micron off, right? That kind of level of perfection is fucking crazy. And there you go. So shows you making the what the hell face.
There's a lot of that. I mean, I'm just a normie person. I mean, I care about history and all that stuff more than a lot of people that I know. And I don't know anything. Like, I find it interesting, but like, I mean, it's easy just to like go about your life and your day, because none of it directly impacts anything that you do, but it's fascinating. And I didn't know how many of it was so frustrating, like unknown, because that part isn't talked about. Like,
it's not
most of the time. Like,
and this is the thing, like with me, when I was in school growing up, and even like before all this, like, history was just always just boring, right? It's just like, yeah, whatever, like, blah blah blah, something happened ages ago and that's it. When I started growing up and looking into stuff like this, it's like, well, hang on, like, this is actually, like, there's technologies out there that we've lost, clearly. Like, do you know what I mean? The people who made these things weren't using copper tools and like wooden chisels, right? Like, this is something else. And this is where I think we kind of want to, we're hoping that we can bring that back. I mean, can you imagine if we find it, like, because these bots are going to be able to tell us, not only go, okay, well, here's what likely happened. They'll be able to go, okay, there's a technology here that I don't understand. Try this. Go out and do this test and see if you can't use I don't know. This is getting woo-woo now. Like, let's say they go, okay, we believe if you use this frequency with this type of stone, it's much easier to move, for example. And frequencies is one thing that we've never really looked at. We know it exists, and we know that like it can alter different things. So you can play a frequency and it would smash glass, for example. There's frequencies that we know that, let's say, DARPA use, that if they blast into a crowd of people, it gives you a headache and makes you sick, right? If you listen to music, for example, different frequencies can make you happy, they can make you sad, they can bring elicit emotion, right?
Well, like white noise, brown noise, all the noises.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. All of them have an effect on us, but we've never tapped into that and kind of looked at it. The way I kind of describe it to people is eggs, water, and flour, right? Eggs, water, and flour can make so many different things.
Right.
So imagine if we only knew how to make, like, let's say, pizza and like pasta. Like we haven't figured out crepes yet. We haven't figured out like any cakes or any of the other things that you can do with these ingredients. And I think frequencies is going to be one of them. And when we say language as well, we're not just talking about us talking and like lost languages, written languages. Like dolphins have language too. So do whales. So do orcas. So do all these things, and they use frequencies, and that all kind of ties in together, right? So yeah. So this is it's there's so much to put in. This is why we're saying this project is, one, probably going to outlive us, and two, it's going to be harder to fucking build in the pyramids.
Yeah. But I'm glad you're doing it. This is so cool. I pop in on the spaces a lot, as often as I can.
I always show you when you're going as well. There's Jess. Everyone go follow her.
No! Shush! Stop telling people I have a wholesome channel.
Yeah, well, they got to be. I like people to be surprised when they show up. It's you, it's Grifty.
No. If only I have there's only so many emotions and things you can convey in the spaces with like a heart, a hand, or whatever. It's like, no, don't do it.
Yeah, there needs to be more emojis for sure. But like the amount of middle fingers that I would get, like I think, you know what I mean?
I do appreciate the shout outs. I think it's much appreciated every time.
I think spaces though is becoming like the new, almost like the new like mainstream media. Not mainstream because it isn't, but like it's much more.
I mean, everybody can come with their ideas and talk, and it's the town hall of the community of Twitter. And I'm always surprised how many people actually show up and have a lot to say about any given topic in the spaces that I see. I live in a rural area. I don't interact with a whole lot of people all that often. So getting exposed to many people coming together on any random ass topic, it's like, oh, wow, not everyone's awful, because, I'm removed from like the cities and that. Being exposed to lots of people in one space all the time, ugh, gross. But so I'm happy to be in a rural area. But then I find the spaces and these people that they don't all agree with each other. That's something that I do appreciate as well about the spaces. Is they all have differences, they disagree, but they're all willing to talk about it. And it kind of like gives me a little more faith in humanity, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, there's still, you still get trolls and stuff like that in there, but you can suss them out pretty quickly. And then like if it's a good host, if someone's hosting and they're like on it, then you can just get rid of them, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I had one guy in there, like he just kept going to like the aliens route. Like, okay, yeah, I get it, but like, you can't. It seems like there's people out there that there are people out there that just want to troll, but like now, it seems they're shut down a lot quicker, kind of thing. People suss them out and they kind of shut down. And like stuff with like community notes and stuff on Twitter as well, I think is awesome, right? You know what I mean? When you see like the New York Times getting shut down, or like all these big reporters getting shut down for like whatever they're saying because people are going, I don't think so, mate. Like, do you know what I mean?
No.
Sounds like bullshit.
No, yeah. Great.
So I think it's a massive tool. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to start this without Like this would have taken a lot longer if it wasn't for Twitter, right? And if it wasn't for, I mean, even meeting people like you and being on here, right, and all this kind of stuff, you know. I mean, I found you through Twitter, and then I think it was you had just done. I think you had like 3 videos up on your channel, something like that. I watched your first one where you're all like, "Oh, this is new," and you had like, you know what I loved is that you had the Millennium Falcon behind you, but then like clips that you were showing were all like Star Trek, and I was just like, okay, you know, so it's pretty.
Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop over here. You can't really.
Oh,
see
nice. Yeah, I gotta get some more shit. I've got like my guitar and my crap table that I've covered with you know, everyone has a shit table that they store everything on.
I have stuff all behind the monitor right now. I'll deal with it later. Bye.
I've got two crap drawers and a table. Like I just keep everything. I think I'm a bit.
So are you planning on creating your own YouTube channel or CBD?
Yeah, so I think we're going to have it on YouTube, but I think probably we're more Rumble material, to be honest.
Yeah,
right. You know what I mean?
I exist on YouTube, but I've been backing everything up to Rumble. I might make the transition just to Rumble at some point. But when I've had some traction, I've been made a mod on like Legal Vices, and he's been interacting with my channel, and I have some invites out. So YouTube has been okay so far, but ultimately I don't think I'm gonna live there.
I think once Rumble makes, he doesn't.
YouTube doesn't like me already.
Yeah,
I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some content I'm putting out. Jesus Christ.
It might be, yeah. I think once Rumble gets their like user like interface, the experience a bit better, I think they're gonna smash it. You know,
the UI is difficult sometimes.
Yeah, but they're getting there. Like it's hard. Like you're competing with YouTube, who have it down to it. Like they have the user experience down to a T, and everybody's used to using YouTube, right?
They've got like 15 years up on them as far as like working out the bugs and stuff.
Yeah, but Rumble are doing it the right way. I think they're basically like, listen, freedom of speech. As long as you're not like, I don't know, fucking playing Nazi Death March fucking videos, then you're okay, right? You know what I mean?
Calls to action, calls to violence, like actually that kind of thing. It's a little different.
You know what I mean? But if you're saying stuff that's controversial, or again, who
cares?
It's freedom of speech, right? I mean, this is something that, like, I mean, even though I live in England, you're in America, whatever. Everyone in the world, okay, forget what's happening now, because there's a lot of craziness, right, with what's going on. But like, America has always been like this bastion of freedom of speech for the rest of the world. And you have to remember, like, the rest of the world has none of that. Like Egypt, for example, I grew up there in the old regime. Now, like, I'm not gonna, like, the new guy, I think he's doing all right. Like from what I've heard, and people, you know, who live there, and he's trying his best to make the best of a bad situation. He's had to contend with 30 years of the Mubarak regime, which was completely totalitarian. You know, disappearing people in the night. My dad, for example, got remarried. This was during the Mubarak, because we had our revolution in 2011 during the Arab Spring. We ousted the dictator. But before that, like, my dad had got remarried, and he brought his wife home to the building that he's lived in, like this apartment building he's lived in for the last like 30, 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. Now in Egypt, there's a law that if you are a man and there's a woman with you, let's say, for example, and you're both Egyptian, you can't go to a hotel together. You can't take her home. Like, there's nothing, like, you have to be married. Otherwise it's prostitution. That's how they see it, right? So my dad went and got married. He took his new wife home for the first night or whatever, took her to the apartment building, the place where he knows everybody that lives in this building. He basically grew up with them. I grew up in this building. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, not a knock at the door, someone was shaking his foot in bed, and he woke up, and there was police standing at the end of his bed with machine guns, right? And the guy's going, "Where's your marriage license? Show me your marriage license." And he had to like scramble. Yeah, they woke him up. Because every apartment building in Egypt has a guy, they call him Boab. He's a caretaker of the building, but he has everybody's keys and everything like that.
Okay.
The police showed up. And
he was targeted. They targeted him though.
Or someone in the building ratted him out. Yeah.
Not knowing that he actually got married.
They didn't know that it was his wife. So he was like, "Oh, he's come home with a strange woman," right? So someone in the building ratted them out. So this is like I don't blame anybody for it. This is the mentality of people that live there, and you're living in constant. Well, they used to. Now, obviously, the new guy is trying to fix it, but like this was 30 years of complete totalitarian. Like you could not do. I mean, the reason I left Egypt was because I kept getting arrested at the age of 13, thrown in jail.
No.
Yeah, like because I'm well. I haven't actually told this story on a fucking thing before, but here we go. So I grew up in Egypt. I was lucky. I got to go to a American school in Egypt, right? Not in America, but in Egypt. That the school that all the expats who live there sent their kids. So like if you work for the military, or the American embassy, or oil companies or whatever like that, you were stationed in Egypt for, let's say, 2-3 years, you brought your family with you, and then you sent your kids to this school in Egypt, right? So American teachers, K through 12, right? So elementary, middle school, high school, Americana properly. We didn't stand up and pledge allegiance to flags or anything like that, but it was American, right? So everything in there. The only people who went to this school were Americans or like fucking super rich Egyptians, but I was neither. Like the only reason I got into this school was because my granddad was in the Air Force, the Egyptian Air Force. He fought in the revolution of 52 to get rid of the king. And he was best friends with a guy who ended up becoming the Minister of Education of Egypt. And he pulled some strings and he got me into this school, right? So I was lucky to get into this school. And I fucking, I know that, right? Like I was literally, everyone was showing up with like commissary food and like fruit roll-ups and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I'm sitting there with like my cheese roll. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, and like, but like I was super lucky to go to the school. But the thing is, because I grew up in that environment, I was never really like, I never assimilated with like Egyptian culture or life that much, right? Like English was my first language. I mean, I can speak Arabic. I can't like, but I speak it like now, even when I go back to Egypt and I speak Arabic, people are like, where are you from?
Yeah,
I'm from here. And they're like, nah, you're not. But anyway, so I was growing up and when I was younger, and still really like I was really into like heavy metal and like just fucking grunge. I grew up on like Nirvana, Metallica, Pantera, shit like that, right? And in the 90s in Egypt, they had this whole thing where they thought that anybody who listened to heavy metal or wore black or had long hair was a Satan worshiper, and they were just throwing people in jail. Not Americans, because Americans in Egypt were like, they were untouchable, right? Like no one, in Americans in Egypt, you guys had your own special license plates that the police weren't allowed to stop your cars, even if you ran somebody over, right? Like literally, you could run someone over, keep driving. The police would have to call it in, and then the person would be like, "Nah, fuck it, like leave them," right?
Oh,
so there was that kind of sense of it's not good, but at the same time, like I get it, right? Like they're bringing a lot of money into the country. The government is obviously going to give them a little bit of leeway, right? Like Egypt survives on, or it did survive on tourism and foreign money, right? So it's like. Lots of things would kind of turn a blind eye. But anyway, so they stopped me and my friends one day. We came out of the first ever heavy metal gig in my town, and we were walking out, and they were letting all the Americans through, right? They were talking to them, letting them through, and I came up to the police officer. He started talking to me in English because I was like, I had a Nirvana t-shirt on, long hair. I just looked like an average fucking guy. And
not a local.
Yeah, I didn't look like a local, right? And me being me, trying to be like whatever, I was like in Arabic. I was like, oh, don't worry, like because the guy was struggling to speak to me in English, like this police officer. And I went, oh, don't worry, I'm Egyptian. You can talk to me in Arabic. And he went, oh, you're Egyptian. And I got a rifle butt to the side of the head, passed out.
No.
I woke up in jail, like tied to the. Anyway, I won't go into it too deep, but they basically what they did was, they fucking roughed me up a bit.
So you saying you were Egyptian? It's like, oh, different set of rules now.
Oh, well, fuck yourself. Bang, right? And like, yeah, so I woke up tied to the jail cell, and they a little bit of third world torture and all that. And then they called my parents and like, if you want to get them out, it's £5,000, right? Egyptian. So my parents came down and paid the fucking bribe basically. And then once they did that, they started coming out and looking for me. So then it happened again and again. It got worse and worse, progressively worse. And then the last time it happened, they took me to like a prison, basically, right? And it was like 10 days. They told my family I was dead. And it was just like, I mean, I'm not going to go into it, but you can just, if you want, like, if your viewers want, all you need to do is put like children, Egypt, and jail into Google, and then just see what happens, right? Like see what the kind of stuff that comes up. I'm not going to go into it, but anyway, so I left at 15. After that happened between the age of 13 and 15. I'd left just after my 15th birthday and came to the UK. So like for me, you know, the culture there and the way of life is so different, having grown up around Americans, that Egyptians themselves, and it's not just Egypt, it's the whole world, we look at America as like this bastion of freedom of speech, right? So freedom of speech is this concept that so many people don't have. And don't listen to all the people who go, oh, the rest of the world hates you and this. No, we fucking don't. Like we're looking at what's happening now. It's like, okay, guys, get your fucking, like, all this craziness, this infighting stuff. Like, you guys were always about freedom of speech. You're always about freedom of expression. You're always about fucking personal freedoms and the right to protect yourselves and all this kind of stuff. And these are things that the rest of the world looks up to you for, right? And yeah, and so these kind of values were always stuck with me. So like now when I look at this, you know, what I'm doing now with this project, or anything that I kind of do, is always within the guise of like, I'm lucky to be in a country. And even though we don't really have a constitution here, we do have much more freedoms than, let's say, I would have back home in the old regime, right?
You have a unique perspective on what things could be, how they should be, what you want them to be, but you've experienced it, so you know the difference. And I think that there is a lot of propaganda to discourage people that are pro-American values, pro-free speech. They're saying everyone hates you. They think you're all just a bunch of rednecks. They think that, you know, lots of bad stuff. But like, I went to England in 97, 98. Everyone was so excited to meet somebody from California, to meet somebody from the US. Had so many questions. Everyone was so nice. I know obviously that was a different time and everything, but I kind of still get the vibe that people don't think we're that crappy.
They don't. And this is the thing.
It's our media. It's our media telling telling us. It's not that the other, you know.
I always find, like, I've traveled quite a lot, right? And I always find that it's never the people of a country. It's your governments and your media, right? Like the people, when you go and actually meet people, everyone most of the time, I mean, is quite friendly and open and wants to share in cultures and wants to this. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, this whole kind of like segregation of culture thing that you guys have going on there at the moment. It's like, oh, you can't have braids, that's ours, or you can't wear that, that's ours. Like, what, are you looking for segregation, or like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. That culture is supposed to be shared. We're supposed to fucking mix.
It's always the white liberals doing it, though. And
what are you doing? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
there's a difference between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation, and it's like,
I don't even think there is a cultural appropriation. Like, what makes me the happiest? What makes me the happiest is on Halloween when I see a dude dressed like in full like Egyptian pharaoh doing the fucking stupid walk shit. I fucking love that.
So I actually worked with an Egyptian guy. He's an engineer. I worked with him at a light sport aircraft company, and his wife didn't like living here, and they had 2 boys. So she moved back, and ultimately he moved back, and he would work remotely. But getting to know him was it just gave me such perspective on the world and different cultures, and he was awesome. I love him. Halloween party. He busted out the pharaoh, and it was hilarious.
For sure.
The headdress and everything. Oh my God, everyone died. It was great.
Do you know what I mean? It just should be fun. And like, I don't know, man. Like the amount of shit that's happened. Like I always think to myself, I remember listening this. I heard this in the 90s when I first got here, right? Like 97, 98. There was a stand-up comedian I saw, and he said something that always stuck with me. He goes, if you can laugh at yourself, then you should be able to laugh at everything, right? Like everybody else. If you can laugh at yourself, right? Then, because life is fucking absurd and fucking hilarious. Like we're literally like bipedal apes standing on this fucking rock, hurtling through space at a fucking billion miles an hour. Like this is hilarious, right? Do you know what I mean? We should be like, what are we arguing? Like this, all these fucking, and for the rest of us looking at America and the people who are like, get offended at everything, and like everything is like now they're trigger this and that and the other. It's like we're looking at them going, oh, I'm sorry, do your diamond slippers not fucking fit you just perfectly living in this fucking first world? Like, come on, guy. Like, you know what I mean? It's the best. Yeah. You're living on the best spot on the planet, right? Like, why are you complaining? You should be proud to be where you're from. It doesn't matter what race, creed, color. Like, if you go somewhere, like, especially with like the American dream and this kind of stuff, people like fucking they wish for that, and they like, I mean, don't take the piss. Like, don't show up and make the place you're going to the same shithole that you fucking came from, right? Like, don't do that. Assimilate it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just out of respect, right? But at the same time, like, cultures are supposed to be shared and celebrated and all this kind of stuff, right? And part of sharing and celebrating is fucking poking fun at stuff, right? We should be able to do
America
that.
was referred to as the melting pot. It's not supposed to be segregated.
No. And this whole thing that's happening I hope that like what we're doing as well, like, finding out where we really came from and where our kind of civilizations were and all these melting pots and all this kind of stuff. I'm hoping that eventually it kind of, I mean, maybe I'm naive. I'm hoping that it brings us closer together as a fucking human race, but I don't think it will. Like, people will just find a way to, divide and conquer or whatever. But like, I think
still hope.
We should. Yeah, I hope. I'm an optimist, man. White pill all the way. I don't know what the pills mean. I don't know what the different colors mean at all. I know like black pill means like you hate everything and everything's going to shit. But like other than that, like, I'm not too sure. And red pill,
just give up.
Yeah.
White pill is hope.
Red pill is like you're outside of the matrix, right? Like you're like awake.
No, red pill. Yeah, red pill tends to be associated with right wing or getting out of like the liberal mindset, the mainstream narrative.
But everything's changed. Like, what it means to be liberal doesn't. Like, when I was growing up, I thought I was much more like. I felt like what liberal meant, let's say in the early 2000s or whatever, is not the same thing what it means now, right?
Very different.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I considered myself like when I was early 2000s or whatever, I was like, yeah, I like freedom of speech. I like to be able to, like, everyone should be able to say what the fuck they want and do whatever the fuck they want, as long as you don't hurt anybody else mentally, physically, financially. Like, fucking do what you want, right?
Prime example: Rage Against the Machine.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, look at them now.
Yeah. I grew up on Rage, man. Like, the amount of times my band covered, fucking Killing in the Name of, right? And it's like, what fucking happened?
That was my jam. That was my total jam. And then all the like the pandemic stuff happened, and their stance on it, I'm like, who are you? What happened to you?
Yeah. It just kind of like everyone kind of you almost have to toe a party line, and I don't like being a part of anything that tells me you need to think this way, right?
No,
this is what you need to believe.
I'm not political, but my viewpoints push me, according to other people, into a category. But that doesn't mean I'm not Republican. I'm not right wing. But I have my belief system, and other people put me in a box.
Yeah.
And that irritates me, because don't put me in the box.
Put me in a fucking box, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I like the shit that I like. I remember growing up and being in school, and we had like banned book week, right? Where we read Catcher in the Rye, or we read fucking like any of those other books that used to be banned. But like the school that I went to was quite like old school liberal, right? So they were like, oh, these books that like the right or whatever tried to ban. Now we're like, and now they're going back to banning. They're burning books, right? The left are burning. It's just like, what's fucking going on?
Effectively, yeah, same thing.
Yeah, and I remember being younger and like and just I don't get it, man. Like it all kind of changed. I don't know. Maybe I'm just fucking getting old, but like
you're not. It changed.
Yeah, I mean, like I never remember like the left or liberals ever like being for like government or mainstream media or big pharma or anything like that, right? Like, do you know what I mean? I don't remember that being.
Don't say it though. They don't outright say we're for big daddy government. We're for authoritarian measures.
And I'm saying this as an outsider. Like, I have no horse in the race, right? Like I'm completely like, do you know what I mean? Like, England's a different thing, but it's just like I remember growing up, and it was always like, it's not rage against. It was rage against the machine, not rage for the machine. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
It just, I don't know, whatever. Like, it's, fine. You're free to do whatever you want to do. But
I'm just disappointed.
yeah, man, I don't know. It just seems a little bit weird to me. But anyway, fucking good to finally have like an actual conversation with you, because we've been talking on Twitter and going back and forth
for a while now.
Yeah.
I didn't know how you found my channel or anything like that. I think you're a fan of Arcada.
Yeah. So I found Ricada during like the Johnny Depp trial kind of thing, I think last summer or whenever it was. Because I just wanted to watch like what was going on, like everybody did, I guess.
Yeah.
And I found him, and then I found you through him, I think.
Cool. Yeah. And you are drinking what kind of?
Oh, this is
shouts out a lot, right?
Yeah, hang on, I'll get the bottle. It's a single malt. Where did I put it? Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no, it was it's like a single malt Scotch. I finished that one now, but anyway, I'm on White and McKay. But yeah, so that's like I like my like peated whiskey. Like I like really smoky fucking whiskeys. Like I know I'm getting old. Like I'm 41, right? So like I used to drink. I remember when I started drinking when I was younger. Well, when I first came to the UK, so I was like 15, something like that, 16. I was 15, and then I started working in bars and nightclubs and stuff. Just, you know what I mean, like I always looked older because I'm an Arab. Like I had a beard since 8 years old, right? So everyone was like, "Oh, you must be, whatever," right? So started working in restaurants and stuff. And then when I hit 18, I started working in like, bars and stuff like that. And I always tried beer.
So you just said you were 18, you started working in bars, and I'm like, wait, what? Because
of course, you're 21, right? Yeah. The rest of the world it's 18 to drink, but so like no, you can work in bars at 16, but you just can't handle drinks. You can do like busboy stuff or bar back or like waitering stuff. So I did that for a couple of years, and then 18, again because of like contacts that I had and people that I'd met and like how I am, I always talk to everybody and just make friends anywhere I go, kind of thing. I ended up meeting the general manager of this nightclub called Stringfellows, which is a strip club in London, right? It's one of the most famous, or used to be one of the most famous strip clubs in the world back in the day. A guy called Peter Stringfellow, but like, so we used to have like the strip club used to be on the weekdays, and then weekends we'd have normal club night. It used to just be a normal club back in the 80s where like Al Pacino used to go, Robert De Niro, like it was a massive kind of place, right? And then he kind of got older and he was just like, listen, I just want to look at tits. So he changed it to a strip club 5 nights a week and then just a normal club on the weekends. And then eventually he was like, yeah, fuck the normal club. I want tits every night. So it was just a strip club, right? So guy's like, my name's Peter Stringfellow. My name's on the door. I'll do what the fuck I want. I gotta respect that, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, listen,
I get it. It's fine.
Scantily clad women around me at all times. So anyway, so I worked there at 18. So when I was 18, I started working there because I knew I ended up being friends with the general manager, this woman named Mary. And then from there, like it was just bars, nightclubs, pubs, all this kind of stuff. And the one thing, like now I work in in like the day job is like cyber security, and like I work in cyber. But every interview I have, they always ask the same questions, right? And I'm great at like those interviews because they don't expect my personality, right? What they expect is people who finished high school and then went on to get a degree, and then they're very like polished and they're very kind of like they know like what the right things to say and blah blah blah. I say the right things, but in the ways that like I always, and this is one thing that I kind of get like, it pisses me off when people focus on words. Like, so when you get people who go, oh, can you not use this word? Can you use this because this is triggering, this is that triggering, blah, blah, blah. I never focus on people's words, right? I always focus on their intention, right? Because for me, intention is much more important than the words that you use, right? Case in point, my friend Adam, who like we go in deep with each other every time we call each other, right? If he could say the most outlandish sentence to me and I would laugh it off, and somebody else could say the exact same sentence, but if their intentions were different, I would get pissed off, right? Someone could say the exact same sentence and I know their intention is to make a joke, and that's fine. But it's all about intention. So when I was speaking to these people, they'd ask me this and that and the other, and I'm to the point now where I'm getting with literally not even a high school diploma. I had to leave in the 9th grade because of the shit that happened. Like I literally like I finished 9th grade and I left Egypt. I started working, right? And now I'm getting jobs over people with bachelor's degrees, over people with masters, right? Because like I can fucking talk, right? I know how to. I can talk. Like I can relate to people. I can get in, right? And they always ask the same question: how do you deal with like every interview? There's always one at one point they go, so how do you deal with like tough negotiations, right? And I always say the same thing, and it's such a fucking cheesy, cliche fucking line, but like corporate people love it. And I always go, well, you know what? Like I've had a lot of times in my life where I had to like negotiate stuff, but like my main skills come from the fact that there's nothing better to teach you negotiation than trying to negotiate with a drunk person at the end of the night who wants one more drink, and you're trying to get them out the bar, right? and they always kind of go, oh, actually, yeah, that's a good fucking point.
Like I can relate to that.
Yeah, everyone can, especially in England. Like drinking culture here is like pretty big.
Yeah, with the hiring thing over people with degrees, I don't have a degree. I did complete high school. I did some college, but I just went straight to the workforce when I was 18, and I've just been working for forever. And what's challenging because I was a quasi HR person, operations people manager for a company up in the Bay Area for a while. The market is so oversaturated that you could be the most qualified person, degree be damned, but they filter it out. They're like, okay, we have 300 applicants. Okay, let's create a standard. We're just going to not even look at the ones that don't have X or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like when you meet people organically, which a lot of times I had met people, they get to know you, they get to know your experience through talking to you. And they're like, we want you because you know how to maneuver around situations or talk to people or that kind of thing. And it's so much more valuable than the piece of paper. And so like as a person that was the hiring manager, it was difficult, but coming from my background, I always tried to look at their experience and where they were coming from over the piece of paper, because it doesn't matter. Most of the time the degree doesn't have anything to do with the job that they're trying to get it, So meeting people organically and all that.
Networking organically as well is a big one.
You get more quality people that way.
100%. And this is what brings me back to like what we were saying about Twitter earlier, is that like networking on Twitter is so much more powerful than LinkedIn ever was. Like LinkedIn is just a circle jerk of fucking like people walking around pretending that they're their own CVs. Like, oh my God, everything's amazing. Oh, cool. Oh, wow. Like it's all positivity. It's like, bro, you don't go around doing that in your normal day life. You're literally sat at home crying in the shower, typing about how amazing your life is on LinkedIn. Shut the fuck up, man. Do you know what I mean? Who are you lying to? And they're all doing it on there, right? Do you know what I mean? Everyone's just pretending like, oh my God, this is so positive. Like, oh my, I love my company so much. Like, this is so cool. It's like, no, you fucking don't. Like, I work with you people. Like, why? Just be honest. And this was the thing about the Twitter is so much more of an honest space. One of my really good friends on Twitter, right? His name, I'm going to plug him. His name's Mr. Alan Boyd. I love this guy. He's one of the best AI business, AI small business newsletters, right? Alan Boyd. Literally, his newsletter is like the top one. If you run a small business and you want to see how you can integrate AI to take you to the next level, his fucking newsletter is number one. And me and him, like, you know how I'm like on Twitter, man. If I like somebody, I will fucking shill the fuck out of you. I will go to the ends of the earth so everybody knows about you and everybody knows how awesome you are, right?
So much so it's almost embarrassing.
Yeah, almost to the point of like, okay, what are you getting money from this person? Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't. Like, I love cool people, right? And he is a really cool guy. And so we chat all the time. He, up until recently, had his profile picture was the same one that he had on LinkedIn, where it's him in a suit and like very professional. And he changed it to something like mine, which was an AI generated image, right? Mm-hmm. When he changed it, I DM'd him going, bro, that's a really cool PFP. Like, I really like it. And I don't know if he's going to kill me for saying this, but anyway, he came back at me and goes, thank you very much. I actually had some pushback from people saying about how unprofessional it looks, the fact that I had an AI generated image as my thing. And I wrote him this long message like, listen, those people don't know what the fuck this space is, like what Twitter is, this environment is, right? This is not LinkedIn. These people are real on here. If you're in AI and you have that, it's actually probably more beneficial having that than a picture of you in a suit. People will take you more seriously because they know you're real. Nothing on LinkedIn is real. Nobody on there, those profiles, nobody is what they try to pretend they are on LinkedIn, right? Even me, you know what I mean? On my LinkedIn is like, oh, look at how awesome I am. And I fucking hate it, but like you have to do that on them. The thing I love about Twitter is like it's killing that. It's fucking killing all that corporate.
It's savage.
Do you know what I mean?
It's just real.
It's fucking real. And like it's something. You build real relationship, real connections, right? Your network on Twitter are people that you can talk to every day. You can jump into a space and talk to. You can like meet like we met or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not this kind of like, I'm going to pretend to be nice. You pretend to be nice. What can you do for me? And then I'll see what I can do for you. And then it's this fucking disgusting game that they play on LinkedIn. It's fucking gross.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They're 90, I don't know, however many, 90% of the internet is garbage. I know there's a lot of trolls and there's a lot of phonies and stuff, but there have been some solid connections that I've been able to make, like the Autonomous Zone, that group. And it's like, they're
those guys are cool, man.
They're cool people. Yeah. It's like I would have never met them outside of this space. You know, exactly. It's cool. It's cool how people can.
Can you imagine trying to build these networks on LinkedIn, right? To build these types of connections.
No. No.
You can't do it. LinkedIn is dead. No. Mainstream media is dead. Like all these we're seeing like the death cry of the old guard, and it's a massive death cry. CNN is dead. Fox is dead. Like they're getting rid of the people that were bringing in the most money, whether you're on the right or the left. They're getting rid of their cash cows for this. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Budweiser is dead. Fucking all these brands are dead. Like, do you know what I mean? And there has to be something to come and replace it. And maybe it's the optimist in me, but like I feel like what's coming to replace it has to be real. You're not fooling anybody anymore. No one's falling for your fucking that kind of propaganda, whether you're on the left or right. Like that fucking bullshit that they try to feed down your throat. Like, this is what you should believe. Look at us, how awesome we are. Blah blah blah. No one believes you anymore. We want to see imperfections. We want to see the ugly side. Like, do you know what I mean? Show us that you're real.
Sick of seeing filters on everyone's photos. Sick of seeing filters on the press. It's just all of it. People are craving that realness, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope they are, like I do. But
can you imagine? I mean, you were like a 90s baby, 80s, 90s?
84, baby.
84? Okay. I need to drink more water, man. Jesus Christ. All right, so but yeah, like
I'm 39 this year.
39. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm 81. So yeah. So you lived through the 80s and 90s. Like, you remember a time when like we were fed stuff and you're like, that doesn't seem right, but I have no one to talk to about this, like except for, let's say, the town I grew up in or the friend group or blah blah blah, right? Mm-hmm. And then you start thinking like, maybe it's just my friend group that think this, and maybe we're wrong. But like now, because of these connections, and especially since like Musk bought Twitter, and it's become a little bit more kind of like, you can have a voice, and as long as you're not going, let's go kill a group of people or whatever, like, you're allowed to say what you want to say. It's all of a sudden we're realizing that like we're not all that different, and kind of all of us don't believe the shit that's being pumped out. Like most people, right? Like, you have to.
Okay, so there are systems in place that are working against us in thinking that, or in making us think that we're in a smaller group. There's a smaller group of people with a similar mindset, and like taking away the dislike button, right, on YouTube. They don't want you to know that other people think like you, not agree on things, but question things. They want you to not feel like you have a community, right?
Yeah, like the narrative they're pumping out is the only narrative.
Yes. And there are no other places to go. This is it. Believe this, And so I didn't really interact with anybody or anything on Twitter for about a year, and it was incidental to Elon taking over.
Same.
And I started interacting, and it was fun. But prior to that, I was mostly a lurker. You know, I was following people, but I wasn't, you know, getting involved.
I think I had my account's been around since, I can't remember. Like, let me have a look. I swear it's like 2014 or 16 or something like that. But I never used it because every time I was on there, it's kind of like, you know, you hear about people getting signed. Yeah, 2014. So I've had this account since then. I didn't start using it until like November last year, something like that. Do you know what I mean? Before that, I was just like, I had one because I had one, but it wasn't something that I was kind of like interested in, because I knew that it was just a fucking circle jerk of you pump out the same opinions that we have, or you get blocked, right, or banned, or whatever, right? And I'm very much of the, I know that Voltaire didn't say this. This is actually something that's attributed to him that he didn't say, but like that saying of, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I 100% agree with that, right?
Yeah.
It's true, right? That's the whole basis of freedom of speech. Is like, yeah, we might not agree, but like, if I silence you, or if I allow you to be silenced, eventually that shit's gonna come back on me. And like, when the tides turn, someone's gonna fucking silence me. If I don't stand up for your right to say something that I don't agree in, then that's gonna fucking happen to me eventually. And like, I don't see how people don't fucking get that.
Because who gets to determine what is harmful, what is hateful, what is bad?
Yeah.
Who puts that person in place? Who gets to decide for everyone else? Well, when that person's removed, who's the next person? It's going to change and turn around on the other people. I mean, like, you have to. I'm a free speech absolutist. So
same. And I'm coming from a place where we had zero free speech. Like, I didn't grow up somewhere that had it, and then they didn't. Like, we like literally, not again, I have to reiterate, because like Egypt at the moment, the guy is fucking trying. Like, I'm giving him like a lot of credit. President Sisi has a lot of shit to clean up from the past regime, right? But like, when I was growing up in the old regime, it was like, one, not only was there no free speech, but two, we had democratic elections every 5 years where President Mubarak, but he won by like 105% of the vote. Like, how do you get 5% extra population? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like no one else had any votes, right? Do you know what I mean? There was a joke in the, you know, your elections, the recent one, was it 2020, 2021? Trump and fucking, what's his
2020.
name? 2020. And some guy, like, because some of the states took longer to count their votes, some guy in Brazil wrote this thing. He goes, "This is ridiculous. I live in Brazil, a third world country, and we have our results 2 days after the election." And then some Egyptian girl goes, "That's nothing. We have our election results 5 weeks before the elections."
Oh no.
Right? So there's people in the world that have grown up in this kind of stuff, looking at this going, guys, like, you have to protect your fucking, like, this is something that none of us have ever fucking had. And it's you can't let it erode. Like, no matter what you think of how politics are in America, whatever, blah, 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 you're the only place in the world that has the ideal of people run this, right? This is ours, not yours, not governments, not big business, not any of this. This is ours, right? Nowhere else has it written down that, like, this is ours. Like, Egypt for sure didn't, right? England, this is a first world country. Our cops don't even have guns. Cops here have to be fit, and they have to be able to chase you down, right? Like, here, it's actually like the cops have to be fit. Like, our armed response units here, like, we have cops with guns, but like, they only get called out when there's a gun situation, right? And they're highly trained. They train every day, all this kind of stuff. But like, even though there's no guns here, we don't have a written, quote unquote, constitution, right? We don't have that. Like, we still look to America, like, whether or not British people want to admit it, like, it's the ideal. It's not perfect in execution, but it's the best that anywhere else in the fucking world has, right? Do you know what I mean?
And that's a thing that gets said a lot, right? It's not, especially when you're talking to specifically white liberal women in America. They're like, well, European countries do it better. Do what better? And then you throw out some like statistics about the population, and like, the lack of diversity and all that stuff, and they go, "Wait a minute, wait, are you saying I'm, calling out some
Is that Andrew
infernal
Schultz? Have you ever heard of Andrew Schultz, that comedian?
I don't know.
Oh, I fucking love that guy
I'm
so
getting
much.
old. I can't remember names.
Oh no, he's new. He's new. Like he's basically like on the same.
I definitely don't know him.
Yeah, I grew up like the comedians I grew up on would be banned now. Like so, I grew up on like Eddie Murphy Raw and fucking Delirious and Bill Hicks, like all those guys, right? Do you know what I mean? But he had this whole bit about that. He was like, oh yeah, you'd have to look it up. But like, yeah, so yeah, you don't know what you have. Like you can't see the woods for the trees, right? Like you don't know what you have until you've experienced these other places and what they have, right? Especially like going to a place like Egypt, for example. Like if you were to go to Egypt, let's say for a week holiday or 2 week holiday, after you got over like the diarrhea and the fucking the change in food, because it happens to everyone. You go there, you eat, and you're like, oh, and like the first week you're just shitting fucking food out of a needle. And then and after that, like what you realize is that like, yeah, the people are friendly and the people are like the actual local people are friendly, but you don't experience what they experience because you're obviously going there as a tourist. But when you live there for a long time, you realize like, okay, we take for granted in the West what we have, and it's understandable because familiarity breeds indifference, right? Once you're familiar with something, you're indifferent to it, and then once you're indifferent to it, you start getting bored. And once you start getting bored, you start looking for problems, because as a human condition, we need conflict and we need resolution, right? So we need something to struggle against to feel like we've achieved something, right? Do you know what I mean? Whether it be
you can't live in a state of complacency like for too long, right?
Yeah. You can't make life too comfortable. And this is a problem because you kind of want to make life comfortable for people because that's one of the bastions of a free society. But again, the double-edged sword is that once you make stuff too comfortable, it's like that old adage. I don't know who said it first. I heard it on a podcast, but what was it? Strong men make easy times. Easy times make
hard times. Hard times create strong men. And the other was the
strong men create easy times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And it's this ever going cycle, and it's almost like we have to figure out a way where we can stay strong but keep it easy, right? Do you know what I mean? And that's I don't think we've figured that out yet, because every society that gets to a point where it's easy or you make it comfortable, there's no struggle, you get stuff like what you guys have there now. Do you know what I mean? Or anywhere else in the kind of free world. And you kind of almost need that struggle. Sometimes that struggle almost needs to be self-inflicted, right? So for example, if you live, like I live here, right? I go, I work out every fucking day to the point where like, I puke, right? Like I will push myself to the point that I will throw up when I'm fucking working out. But it's almost like a meditation for me. It's almost like a release. It's like a trial by fire. Like I'm an extremist. I'm an Arab. Of course I'm a fucking extremist, right? Like I have to be. Like you're lucky I don't have a suicide vest. I'm going, oh Lord, you want my shit up right? All right, cut that bit out.
No, it's staying in. It's staying in. This is my wholesome channel.
Oh, I'm gonna get canceled before we even start this project. But anyway, yeah. So like, I have that Mediterranean blood in me. Like my grandma was Greek. I've got fucking Italian. I'm fucking Egyptian. All that kind of shit. Like that fucking like hard. So I need to make it hard for it to be benefit. If my life isn't, if I'm not making something in my life really fucking hard or difficult, whether it be working out or learning guitar or any of those things, I start getting fucking like bored, not bored, but like antsy. Like, do you know what I mean? I need something to fight against, the struggle. And it's a human condition. Like if you think, if we've been around for what we know is like 300,000 years in our current form, like we have been struggling this whole fucking 295,000 years worth of literally like, if we don't find something to kill today, we're going to die, right? Your family's going to fucking die. That's so built into us that like once all of a sudden we're not having to fight off grizzly bears to you know, we're not fighting grizzly bears off for rights to a carcass that we can feed our family. Suddenly you're going to Walmart and buying fucking chicken in a packet, right? It becomes like, okay, well, you need to create this struggle somewhere. Otherwise, you're going to get bored and start dyeing your hair purple and shaving half of it and saying crazy things, right? You know what I mean, though, right? So we need struggle.
So as an outsider to the U.S., what is your opinion on that
You cut out
idea?
for a second. As an outsider to what? You cut out. 1 second. Sorry.
As an outsider to the U.S. politics and just more of an observer to the things that are going on. When you're talking about the hard times, weak times, wrong-minded men, do you, as an outsider, see that America has more of that going on than any other country? Like they're bored, they don't have enough to like actual shit to worry about, that they are creating problems, or what do you think?
It's not as lots of people want answers that are black and white kind of thing, and I don't think it's that black and white. You have to take into consideration that Americana is something that is an export of America, right? Americana. So like Hollywood, for example, has always been an export of America. You guys export whatever, you import whatever, but like one of your main exports was always the American dream, right? Like the American way of life, all these kind of things. And that affects the rest of the world in a way, and it's always been a positive way, right? Because since whenever this started, like even Hollywood started in the 1920s, right? Do you know what I mean? Before that, no one else had cinema, and everyone kind of followed suit. And what did we have when we were looking at the best films in the world or whatever? Like it was always American films, American culture, American this and that and the other. And whether people want to look back and say that was bad or good or whatever, it changed the landscape of the world. It changed it and in my opinion, it changed it in a good way, because whatever you want to say about, again, this, and I'm separating the people of America from your government, right? Because governments do bad fucking things. It doesn't matter whether you're an American government or the Egyptian government or the fucking Russian government. Governments do bad fucking things. People are not to blame for their fucking governments, right? You can't blame the fucking people for the government. You can't blame the workers for the shit, right? Like the shit their bosses do.
Sure.
But Americana itself, like the idea of freedom, of living your best life, of being able to, you work hard, you reap the benefits that of your hard work.
Right? You can start at the bottom and make it and be your own boss, be a CEO.
Those are all American ideals. Like they're like no one else pumped that out of their countries. You didn't get fucking, I don't know, Kenya going like, hey, yo, if you come here and work hard, you know, whatever, like you'll get, like, no, that was an American ideal. So the rest of the world got used to going, okay, what's America doing? That's the best thing, right? Do you know what I mean? The rest of the world got used to that. But now, because of this kind of this warping of what it means, like, and this confusion of all of a sudden, like the stuff that we kind of took for granted that we knew, like things about biology or science or that, and like everyone all of a sudden now it's like, well, no, this is all like, you know, I'm changing the language and changing what words mean and all this kind of stuff. It's filtering. It's still filtering out into the world. Like we haven't plugged it yet, right? Because we're all so used to getting this good stuff that like all of a sudden this coming and like, okay, whoa, like you guys,
wait a minute.
What is this, right? Do you know what I mean? Like why all of a sudden are like, I shouldn't get into it, but like, do you know what I mean? Like why all of a sudden are is it affecting sports? Why all of a sudden is it affecting bathrooms? Why all of a sudden is it affecting like how people talk to each other, or how people are allowed to talk to each other, or the connections between people, or sharing cultures, or any of this? Like why all of a sudden is it gone from we're all equal and we can all it's gone from a melting pot to all of a sudden let's take out all the ingredients and fucking segregate them all, and then everyone fight for each other for who has more rights than others, right? And the more
who's more victimized, who is, you know, it's not like who's the best, it's who's the greater victim.
And I hate and trust me, like I came, like for where I am and the shit that happened and where I've come from, I could 100% like hold up the victim card, right? 100%, I could, right? But I fucking hate that mentality. And it's for the simple reason is once you start with that mentality, the victim mentality means what you're saying is I'm helpless, right? And I'm not fucking helpless. Like I worked hard to get where the fuck I am, right? Like, do you know what I mean? I fucking worked really hard. And for somebody to go, oh, but like, you never had the chance that the white people had, or you never had the chance that, yes, I fucking did, right? Like, of course I did. I came here, and you know what? The fact that even if I didn't, let's say white privilege and all that shit was real, which I don't fucking believe it is, because I know a lot of poor fucking white people, right? Like, let's say it was real, right? Even if it was, and I had to work twice as hard, I would still be twice as better off as them, right? Because I had to fucking do that. Hard work beats fucking natural talent every fucking day of the week, right? Every day of the week. That fucking story of the rabbit and the hare, like slow and steady wins the race. Fuck that. No, fast and steady wins the fucking race.
The tortoise and the hare.
So whatever. Yeah, sorry. We're not fucking. But like, you know what I mean? No, like you work fucking hard. And if I have to work twice as hard, then I will get to twice the results that you do. And the fact that you're putting it you should be thankful for being put in a position where you have to work twice as hard.
That's what they're doing, though, right? Whoever they is. But by doing that, by saying, "Oh, you're the victim, you deserve X, Y, Z," hard work is discouraged, victimhood is encouraged. It's like nobody has to work hard to get to the top anymore.
No, I've worked hard all my life for everything that I've got, and I don't fucking regret a minute of it, because you know what? It's brought me to this point. Can you imagine if I was actually just given everything? And nobody's just given anything. You have to fucking work, right? Yeah. And actually, the people with quote unquote natural talent, they never get that far because they've never had to actually work for it. Like if you actually like the people that we call privileged or whatever, what we're really saying is it's not color. It's between the rich and the poor, those who have and those who have not, right? The people who are born with the silver spoons in their fucking mouths, and let's say given a company, and let's say somebody who grew up and had to struggle all their life and started a company and the exact same let's say industry and the exact same level as the person who was given it because daddy was rich. The person who's worked hard is always going to be better off than this person. When you're given something, you never appreciate it. When you have to work and fucking like you have to work hard for something, it means so much more to you, and the experience that you have means that you're going to appreciate it and you're going to work even harder to fucking keep it, right? Natural talent means nothing when it comes to fucking somebody who works
hard. So struggle or having to work hard, having to struggle or having to work hard, it creates so much more depth of character.
Yeah.
And that like affords you more opportunities later on because you have those qualities have grown within you, or they were forced into you by the struggle, which if everything's just handed to you, you won't develop those, and you won't be as scrappy. You won't be able as, what's the word I'm looking for? Words are hard right now.
Tenacious.
You won't be as scrappy. You won't be as more capable of maneuvering around different situations going forward. So struggle, it sucks, but it does benefit you in the long run.
It's necessity. I have for example, I have a daughter, right? She's 13. I have to balance between wanting to protect her from the world and not wanting her to grow up to be a weak ass bitch, right? And I mean bitch, and I say that for men and women. Like I don't mean it just.
Good. No offense.
Like she knows. Like I say this to her all the time. Like listen, like, but because we have that relationship, like. She comes to me with my kid comes to me with everything. Just today, she's texting me from school, going, "Oh my God, Dad! Like I just stood up for my friend Hannah, whose friend just did this. Like, and then someone said this. What do I do?" Like she's telling me all her dramas, right? Because we have that relationship where I'm like, I'm going to be completely honest with you all the time. Like I'm not going to be like, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. Do as I say. I'm the parent, and I am the parent. She knows this. Like. We have, it's obviously I'm, not fucking dickhead with it, but she knows that like she's always going to get honesty with me, and she knows my background. She knows how I grew up, and she understands that struggle is a very big part of becoming a well-rounded person, right? If you don't have struggle, even if let's say, even if it's self-induced, right? If you have the mentality where you self-induce struggle, you will still succeed. If you put yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable all these self-help gurus and all this kind of stuff, when they say do one thing a day that makes you uncomfortable or whatever, blah, blah, blah. What they're saying is you need to fucking learn how to struggle, right? If you don't have struggle, you're going to be a weak ass bitch, right? Do you know what I mean?
In another way to say it is problem solving. Like it's just a problem.
Extreme problem.
You find a way. You
the reason I love jujitsu, like I do jujitsu, I do like kickboxing, but I love jujitsu is because it's basically extreme problem solving under high stress situations. So it's basically human chess with like dire consequences if you make a mistake. And I love it because it's instant. Like you make a mistake, you're fucked, right? Like, do you know what I mean? It's the same in life. Like you make a fucking mistake, you're fucked, but you have to learn from that mistake and not let the, oh shit, I got fucked, affect you to the point where it disables you because you've never, do you know what I mean?
There's no time. You got to respond, right? Yeah. You got to correct and not let that happen again.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to almost in the first world, if you don't live in one of these places where you're like, oh shit, they're cutting off heads today, right? If you don't live in one of those places, then you have to assimilate that. Because if you don't, next thing you know, you're in Congress screaming into a microphone and that's your speech. Right? You know what I mean?
Yikes.
Anyway, I don't want to get too political, but yeah, you know what I'm saying, right?
Not to get too political today. This is a chill stream. We're supposed to be chilling.
Exactly.
Now, this has been a lot of fun.
It's been awesome, and it's been awesome to finally get to meet you. Hopefully, like maybe I can like meet the rest of the crew and stuff like that, and actually have a drink and take the piss out of them for drinking beer because, like, come on, like who drinks beer after the age of 14? Come on. Like the last time I saw you guys on a stream, the guy they were all drinking like. I don't know. I'm just taking the piss.
Nobody had a beer. I'm sure somebody did. It's fine. No, that would be awesome. Yeah, we'll have to make that happen. There's things going on with that channel. I don't know. I might be more of a recurring character coming up. But yeah, and my Wednesday thing, I sit in on the Taz show, and every now and then I actually put out a separate video like today. So yeah.
That's cool, and thank you very much for having me as well. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been really cool.
Hey, let's shout out your channels again and all the things so that people know where to find you.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, you can find me personally on Rami 4K RHAMI 4K, or the if you're interested in the AI project that I'm doing, it's the AI-ARGO on Twitter as well, or the AI-ARGO.ai on online. And yeah, you can reach us on there, and yeah, it'd be cool to see all your fans on there as well. Because I know we have a lot of crossover, and obviously I know your guys, and you guys know my guys.
There's a lot of crisscross between the Law Tube and now the Autonomous Zone, and like all the things. It's kind of a weird mixed bag.
Awesome.
But there's so many cool
awesome like connections.
Yeah, I'm loving it. But yeah, so I think this is where we're going to wrap up the video for today, and keep an eye out for what comes next for the AI-ARGO and that project. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.